Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. Presented by Carolina Lightweight. Come sit with us. When the action begins in the studio, our referees for tonight's event are Elgato Azul and Carolina Real Streamers. For the viewers in attendance and Facebook and YouTube users around the world, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Live from the Elgato Azul TV studio in Louisville, Texas, it's time! What's up, slime lovers? I'm your host, Chris, a.k.a. Elgato Azul. A partner in slime over here, Mr. Jamie Dunn, Carolina Lakeweights.
What's up, buddy?
Welcome to the Slime Show, baby. How's everybody doing tonight? Jamie, how are you doing, buddy?
Man, we doing good, brother. Trying to still get here. I forgot to set the other computer up while I was sitting here and everything. Got everything up and going. Man, we've been busy, brother.
Y'all got a cold front blowing in over there?
Actually, man, I was just telling Rebecca. Rebecca had the door open to the shed, and I was like, man, it's cold outside. We went out this morning and hit the woods, got out in some nature this morning. Actually broke out a light hoodie this morning. It was chilly.
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
That's it, man. Ready for some big fish season coming up, brother.
Yeah, we had 50-degree morning today, and tomorrow's going to be mid-40s. So,
oh heck yeah, man!
The high tomorrow, 69 degrees.
I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
That ought to help.
That's it. Man, I tell you what, looks like we got a good crowd coming up in the chat.
Yeah, let's see who's in here. We got Richard Gadget Green says, hello all. It's 56 degrees in Cold Spring, Texas this morning. Going to be 50 by morning. Well, I'm glad it's freaking finally here. I can hear my wife getting onto the tornado. Walt says it was 50-ish here in Virginia. Got him a few trout today, and we eating good tonight.
Oh, man, that's always
Eagle Eyes Juan Tienda. Welcome in, buddy. West Texas Cat Addict. Welcome. Bunch of Texas guys in here. Queen V's Honey. Vest Cooks. Back from vacation. Back to the grind. Michael Letty, it's been a while. Michael, where you been, bro? Micah Burkhart, King of Tennessee. Welcome in, Micah. Happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mike.
Let's see. Moving on down. Dustin Clark, welcome in, Dustin. How you doing, buddy? Ryan Smith, I believe he's just got off the lake. What's up, Ryan? Billy Bever, welcome in, Billy. Doug Smith, welcome in, Doug. 88 in Orlando, Florida.
Man,
what are you doing in Florida, Doug? Catfish season's kicking off. Guess you better get in while you can. Hooked on Kermit, welcome in, buddy. Leland, welcome. Appreciate everybody stopping in. Tonight we're going to be discussing shoring up the holes in your game, be answering some questions. We may ask somebody to come up if they want to join us. But Jamie?
Yes, sir, man.
What's something in your game you'd like to start trying to improve on?
Bring on some more first place trophies instead of man, we finally got to go back out this weekend, and I want to give JTC, my fishing partner this weekend, Jeremy down in Charleston. We hit Santee Cooper Saturday night, brought home third place in Big Fish Trophy. It felt good to get back out there. Actually, I tell you, Chris, we looked around for a good 2 hours before when the tournament started because we talked last week. They dropped the water down in Santee Cooper to make room for all the water coming in from North Carolina and all them areas. and it totally just had the fish just scattered everywhere. And some of the holes in my game is I pretty much went in something I haven't done in a while, kind of a little panic mode, like, man, what in the world am I going to do? But we found some current, we got in some current, and we drug, and we did real well. So it paid off. It's basically staying calm, got collective, and started back on that game plan.
You started scanning, and you scanned for how long? Couple hours?
Couple hours, man.
That sounds like my last 3 or 4 trips. Now, this last trip, I scanned for damn near 4 hours. Brutal. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I had to scan like that.
Yeah.
But I will say this, persistence paid off. I just kept grinding and grinding and looking and looking and looking. Eventually, I found some. So
that's it. We actually found a pattern. We got on a pattern around about 1 a.m., Chris, and about 4:20, the tournament was over at 5 a.m., but with about 10 minutes to go, we found our last fish, and we figured it out. So we got real lucky, man, that we figured out a good pattern, and we stuck with it, but it took us a while, but we pulled it out.
So what was the pattern?
The pattern, actually, when we started out drifting, Chris, we started out in about mid-range, around 20 to 25 foot. And actually, we ended up within 10 to 12 foot range that night. So is where we ended up at. So we figured that pattern out, that they wasn't where we thought. Then they were where we didn't think they were going to be.
Well, here's what happened on my fishing Monday. Jackson was out of school Monday, so I took off. We headed up to Texoma. I went to where I thought they might be, and as soon as I pulled up, they were there. And I thought, man, today's going to be a great day. It was loaded with big fish. I didn't even get a nibble. I drug it for a good hour and didn't even get a nibble. And about an hour was up, the front was blowing in, and I started to say, oh, it's this front, it's got them shut down. So I was going to motor back and just look at the fish on my graph, and scan it, and they were gone. They had left within that hour. They were gone, and I was on a huge pile of striper, big fish under them. They left. So I said, well, I found those quick. So there's, usually when you find that first group, you can go anywhere and find. Well, I went the next 4 hours. I looked and looked and looked and looked and looked. I went from 2 feet out to 50 feet. I scanned every piece of structure. I covered 10 miles that way, went 10 miles back that way, and then ended up going back to where I first saw fish and just focused in on that little area and tried to find that group. Ended up finding them again, and luckily they were turned on. So when I say persistence paid off, I don't even know. I was thinking I was about to take a skunk. I had about committed to taking the skunk.
Man, did you end up finding some around some structure? I know we found that's where we ended up finding ours, was tight to some structure Saturday night. I mean, tight. And normally we wouldn't think they would be in that situation where we were normally going off of what we knew in the past, but it was totally different, man. I mean, they were just tight to the structure Saturday night.
I couldn't find any real pattern. When I came off plane in my first spot, I just thought, I'm going to check this depth. I didn't have, there was nothing out there. It's just mud flat. Came off plane. It was loaded with striper. I was like, oh, well, with big fish under them.
Yeah.
So it didn't work out. I ended up looking up shallow, then worked my way back out to 50 feet. Never saw anything. I talked to my 2 guide buddies that fished that lake, and they got their ass kicked and the day before. And I thought, well, hell, they guide the stem lake every day. If they can't do it, I know where not to look. So I went the other end of the lake.
What's up?
What's up, buddy? The tornado's in the house.
You staying out of trouble?
I guess.
And guys, also, if y'all have any questions tonight in the show, feel free to ask any questions, anything that we can help you talk to you about, or anything y'all want to talk about. Definitely get it in the chat. I'll be watching chat on both sides. So let us know. We would love to answer your questions for sure.
We'll run back through here. A bunch of new guys came in. Doug said he's cutting trees in hurricane help in Florida. So good on you, Doug.
Yes.
Dustin Clark says it's been a bad day. He's clearing a new lot on the lake, watching people fish while he works. Mad face. Corey Whaley says, what's good, fellas? Bill Journey, good evening, guys. Eagle Eyes Tienda said he personally needs to work on scanning more. I wish I could scan less, but I'm one of those guys. I can't fish unless I see something I like. And a lot of people that fish with me, they're like, let's just fish. This has gotten out of hand. I'm like, I mean, we're just going to float around like idiots if you're cool with that.
And Chris, you know, sometimes a lot of people, I think that's where they go wrong, man, is pretty much they just like, hey, let's just go out here, let's start. And you're basically fishing dead water. And I
won't do that.
Yeah, I don't care anything about
it. A lot of guys say, well, you know, I catch fish that I don't ever see. I can't ever remember the last time I wasn't seeing fish on the graph and caught fish. I see fish and then I catch them. And that's what the graph does. You know, you might not see every one of them, but if you're in an area that there's fish, that's telltale sign what you're supposed to be doing. Throw down. If I don't see it, I'm not stopping, because I used to do that a long time ago, you know, and I didn't catch a lot of fish fishing that way.
Yep. And just like I just saw in chat, you know, this is that time of year you're talking about the turnover, man. You're talking about things changing, directions like crazy right now. You know,
turnover scatters everything.
Yeah, I found that out Saturday night with everything, with the weather, the moon, everything, all this. You know, it was totally different than what I thought it was going to be, like I said. But, you know, when you got to stay in there, you got to find that pattern is the biggest thing. Once you figure out just that little bit of that pattern and it gets more and more in depth, the fishing gets better and better. It's like, you know, you're glad you hung in there and you stuck with it. So just scanning myself, you know, I'm like you. I'm not going to fish dead water. I've got to see some kind of action and, you know, like what I'm seeing.
I believe if I would have not scanned, I wouldn't have caught a single fish. And it ended up doing pretty good. But, you know, I fished for 6 hours, and 5 of that, I didn't catch a damn thing. It was brutal.
That's it.
Brutal. But for an hour, I hammered them, you know?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, guys, I mean, let us know, how's your patterns changing where you are? Are y'all guys seeing the same thing right now? Let us know what y'all guys are dealing with right now, and what are y'all doing to find your fish?
Tim King, let's ask him. He's been hammering them.
Yeah.
He's up in Virginia, though, which a lot different than being down south. We're going through the transition. Our water went from 78 to then the next trip it was 75, 74. Last trip, I heard today the water was 68. So not great for catfishing in my book. But you can still get lucky. I mean, we've caught big fish all 3 last trip. I just feel like I had to work so freaking hard. It's crazy how hard I worked for those fish.
That's
it.
Everybody's
like, man, long day for 10 fish. I'm like, yeah, but you know, What you don't realize is 5 of that I didn't have a single fish in the boat.
And
For an hour, I hammered them. I pulled it out the end. I thought, yes. Felt great, man. I felt great. Finally get on them. It was brutal.
That's the way I felt Saturday night, man. Once we figured out that little pattern, I was like, man, thank you, Lord Jesus. You know, we needed this because we were sitting there busting our heads up against the windshield going, what are we doing wrong, man? Let's stop. Let's think about this. And, you know, it was just like, okay, we figured it out. And, you know, also
I don't understand where they all go.
Yeah.
Guys are like, well, they got to be somewhere. I'm like, well, I got guide buddies all over Texas. I got guide buddies on every damn lake I'm fishing. They're all out there every day. They ain't doing nothing right now. Like, you know, it's rare. Maybe a 20, 25 here and there, you know.
Man. And not only that, and I think I also saw the pattern in baits right now. You know, the baits are kind of
our baits scattered. You know, you can see small threadfin everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. The lake's just, we've had prolific shad spawns the last 2 years. Not any real significant shad kill. We had an extra shad spawn in the fall last 2 years. Lake's just full of threadfin. It's insane. So
that's it. And like we always joke about, you know, that's fishing, y'all. You know, that's why they call it fishing.
I just can't go out there and totally get destroyed.
You'll stay out there all night, won't you, brother?
I won't stay out there all night, but I will fish so hard. I will beat my head against the wall until I get some fish in the boat where I can go home feeling like, okay, I got a little something figured out of the day, rather than just going home and saying, oh, well, that's painful. I can't even have a good week after that.
Yeah, you and I are almost, I mean, well, we are like, you know, when it comes down to that, because I'm sitting there on the boat and I'm like wanting to throw the damn tackle box out the boat because I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? But, you know, once you work hard enough at it and you stop and you concentrate and you figure out that pattern, you feel a lot better about it. You know, that's what makes good fishermen, decent fishermen, you know, in a different category than, you know, just a person that just wants to go out and, you know, just have fun, you know.
I just want to have fun, but I can't have fun unless I'm doing well.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
I just can't. So.
And yeah, guys, like I see Ryan, the few fish you caught came from 4 to 6 foot of water. Yep. So yeah, not only are the fish kind of changing around, the fish are, you know, starting to hit different depths of water. Things are starting to cool off.
Yeah, so last week I fished, it was 75 degrees. I looked at fish. I found somewhat of a pattern in 16 feet. I didn't get a damn bite, you know. And I scanned for hours after that, scanning my ass off, probably 2.5 hours. Finally found a pattern in 8 feet. Ended up getting a couple 40s and a 20 and a teener. And I thought, man, I really did something, you know. But I went three solid hours of just getting destroyed. I was getting down on myself, you know. This sucks. I was saying this sucks, and I'm terrible. And I was doing a lot of praying.
That's it.
Me and God were getting real close out there.
I saw Rebecca put in chat, Chris with the skunk. Yeah, right. Never.
Well, my buddies are like, man, on these because some of my buddies have been with me, obviously. Fishing's not always good. And on a bad day, they're like, damn, I've never seen somebody freaking beat themselves up and go put themselves through so much to figure something out.
And I tell you something else too, Chris. We've been talking about setups. I actually changed some of my setups on the rods Saturday night also to make up to where when I did find them, to where the area I was in, I changed some of my setups that worked a lot better for that area. And
Tim
I was
said he's recovering from a fillet knife wound to the arm. That don't sound good, Tim.
not at all, brother. Them things do not have no mercy, let me tell you. But
yeah, we had a north front hit. It was brutally windy when I hit the lake. North front's it's a really good chance that the fish are going to have lockjaw. And they did. And not only that, I found a good group real early. Had a lot of big fish in it. They just wouldn't bite. I mean, they wouldn't even nibble. I downsized, but I did keep some big stuff on. I downsized everything. And what's crazy is when the wind died later in the day, that's when I started catching fish. And I stuck with big baits. I caught all the fish I caught were on big baits. Even the small fish wanted a giant freaking bait. So it's that time of year. I'm going to start going big.
And see, I actually shortened up my leaders Saturday night on a bunch of my poles. I went shorter leaders on somewhere the tighter structure and that's where we done fairly well. It really was. Let's see here. Guys, if y'all have any questions for myself, Chris, feel free to ask. Any subjects you want talked about tonight, we can talk about all kinds of subjects. Just feel free to put it up in chat. Let's talk about it.
Daniel 45 says he fishes blind just because he gets in a hurry to fish. I get that. Like, got a lot of buddies that do that. But in my mind, I got to be on the fish that I want to be on. You catch a decent fish here and there. I got high hopes and high standards when I go fishing. I just put a lot of pressure on myself to do well. And I got to see what I want before I'll even get a line wet. These guys are like, man, we've been scanning for 2 hours. It's like, can we fish? I'm like, well, I mean, no. You want to just go fish blind, go on your boat. I'm going to find these fish. And then when we find them, I'm going to hammer them. Till then, I'm going to look. And, it's just, is the way that I do it. It's not for everyone. I get it. It's a painful way to fish when they're not easy to find, but
that's it.
It's all about the change. Right now, everything's scattered. There's not any real pattern for our lakes. We haven't had any rain coming into the lakes. It's been hot, 90s every day. It's just everything's scattered. Lakes starting to kind of mix.
Chris, I got a question for you. How do you approach post cold fronts?
Post cold front. Day the front hits, I'm going to move to structure. If it's depending on what kind of front we're talking about. Right now, it's not like real hard fronts that we're getting where you get a 30 degree drop in temperature. They're kind of light fronts, and there's not any real way to target fish the way these little fronts have been hitting, other than it kind of turns them on a little bit. But it's not been cold enough to concentrate bait. It's not been cold enough to fish are going to concentrate when bait concentrates. That typically starts when the water gets in the 60s in these lakes that don't have current. Our lakes don't have any flow coming into them right now. They're just an open body of water. So as the lake gets into the 60s, you'll start seeing bait fish grouping up better. And then they'll become a little more easy to pattern. But as we get real fronts blowing in, day that the front hits, I always look for structure. I'm looking for ledges that are close to where the fish have been, places where they're going to drop back, start moving a little bit deeper. And I look there. And then after the front, I leave that piece of structure and I work my way out from it. So knowing how far fish like to move in a day, you can generally hound dog fish and find them that way. Just for us down south right now, they're not real easy there's no real pattern. It's pretty much if you can find a little small group, fish it, because you're not going to find a big giant group too often right now. It's coming. We're close. We're just not quite there yet.
Yeah. Richard was saying when he sees the hummingbirds head south, he goes to deeper water.
I generally, my depth is dependent on, first of all, it's going to be water temperature, and then how big of a temperature swing it's been. If you got a big hard cold front that hits, fish are going to move deeper. If they've been up in 12 feet, they'll move out to 20 feet. If they've been in 20 feet, they'll move out to 30 feet, and so on and so forth. And that's how I track them. They generally move typically about 10 feet at a time, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And then if you get a really hard front, they'll move a long way and they'll go really deep. They'll be in deep channels, depressions, things like that. So,
well, Chris, this time of year right now, are you still cutting your bait the exact same? I mean, I know you're probably going to some bigger baits, but are you filleting them
on? I had summer cuts on because I thought cold front fish aren't really grouped up yet. I'm gonna still throw some small stuff, but then I also went big because I was at a big fish fishery and I caught all my fish on big baits. Even my eaters come off baits this big. So,
wow. They
wanted something big. Who knows? Maybe today or tomorrow they don't. But I'm gonna right now till the water temp gets in the 50s. I'm gonna use every size cut. I'm gonna put small stuff up all the way to big stuff because you just don't know what they're gonna want right now. I do know what they like in 50-degree water and colder. They like our fish like giant baits. Big fish like big baits when it's cold.
Got a question also. What are some of the tactics you do when fishing new waters, new areas?
Got to find the bait pattern. That's the first thing I look for when I get on a lake, even on my home lake. I'm looking for the bait, the predominant bait pattern for that specific day. Let's say you go fish, Saturday, you've had whatever, weather conditions, you find baits orienting to 23 feet. You can move all over the lake in 23 feet. You can find fish. You can find bait grouped up in 23 feet all over the lake. Knowing that they're in 23 feet, then you can decide, okay, it's October. There's rain on the way. There's fronts coming. The bait migration is going to want to move north, and they're going to start orienting to where the water's coming in, and catfish are going to follow them. So I'm up in the top third of the lake on most of the fisheries I'm on right now. I start looking up there, and every lake's a little different. If you're on a striper lake, it's completely different. Get around the striper most of the time, unless it's like spring pre-spawn. But that's just how I do it. I typically find the bait pattern first, and then I start thinking, okay, they're in 23 feet, or let's say they're in 16 feet. Okay, they're in 16 feet. I'm going to move up the lake until I get to 16 feet. Even if I go out on a point on the main lake and I'm marking them in 16 feet, I'm not going to fish those fish. I'm going to move up the lake, and I'm going to go to 16 feet, and then I'm going to mark and then I'm going to scan everything that's in that range as I move up the channel. If there's a point, I'm going to scan that point. If there's a hump next to, the channel, I'm going to go move over there. I'm going to scan that. If there's wind blowing into a pocket on a shoreline contour, I'm going to go scan that. I'm just going to work my way up, looking for the size fish that I like to target. Doing that, you'll see lots of smaller fish chasing, fish in that same pattern, but may take 3 or 4 groups before you find big fish and then fish them.
Yeah.
You see what you like, fish them.
That's it.
And, if you don't ever see what you like, which happens, sometimes I don't ever see what I'm looking for. And I'll say, okay, I know I saw four groups of fish. I'm going to move back to the one that I think was the best out of those 4. And then I'm going to go fish that. And, but I'm not just going to stop if I see fish. I'm going to stop when I see the fish that I want. You can always go back. Guys like, how do you pass up on fish? Well, you pass up on fish because there's not any big ones in there. If there's not any fish you're looking for in the group, keep moving. You can always go back. Fish will still typically be there unless this time of year they move a lot. You may just throw down on them. They may not be there for very long. The morning pattern is going to be different from the afternoon pattern. But that's the way I do it. I don't fish it till I see what I like. And if I don't see what I like, I come back and I rate the groups that I've seen, and I go to the one that I think is the best one.
Now, Chris, on that subject, do you notice the time of the day that the fish are changing their patterns on some of those that you've scanned? Are they still in the same areas?
Definitely. They move this time of year. They were out on a mud flat Monday. When I came back, they were on a piece of structure that was about a quarter of a mile from there. I had to really look to find them. A quarter of a mile in a lake, pretty, it's not like, think about a quarter of a mile. It could be a quarter of a mile that way. Where do you look? So I just started, well, here's where they were. Now I know they're probably not more than about a half a mile. So within that half mile radius, what all structure is within that area? And that's where I started heading. All right, I'm going to check that hump, and that point. And hopefully they're thinking kind of like I'm thinking,
So you got spots that you know when it gets to a certain time of day that you can kind of move back to and start going back over again because
Well, if I know where they were, and I know kind of how far fish like to move, they don't just typically make huge runs unless you've had a major weather event, a huge cold front. They'll move, a lot of rain coming into the lake. They'll make a long run. But if there's nothing really to move them, they don't move real fast. They move like this. So an hour or two later, they hadn't gone very far. Not more than about a half a mile.
Yeah. So exactly kind of within that time period that they're about within that half a mile.
Somewhere right in this area.
Yeah.
Where? Where would they be? They could be on this windblown point. There's a couple of humps out here in the middle that hump up. They like that. That's ambush structure. Sometimes they'll go lay on that kind of stuff. Sometimes they'll move over to a shoreline contour that the wind's blowing into. And I'm not saying that's how the right way to do it. That's just the way I do it. And I can generally I can hound dog fish. It takes me a long time sometimes, but
that's it. Chris, what kind of big bait? Huge shad, cut carp? Myself, man, I've always been the one to say I use what's in that river system. I normally don't bring in something different. I normally pretty much this time of year, I'm like you. I do start taking my baits bigger, but I'm always using what's inside that river system pretty much too. And Joe was asking, what kind of big baits. So what are you using, Chris?
Well, I fished up at Texoma. I was using white bass, whole white bass. tail cut off. I trim the fins. I fillet them down one side. I use the fillet, a whole fillet, and I use the whole fish. I stinger rig them. Caught all of our fish on those whole white bass. So, you know, there's something to the size of the bait. It's not just the type of bait. Certain size fish want a certain size bait. I don't care what guys tell you. It's true because some days all I can get is a certain deal. It works just as good as the one that I think is the key bait. You know, it's the size that they want. They become keyed in on a certain size fish gets keyed in on a certain size bait. So if carp, buffalo, drum, giant gizzard shad, if you're on a lake where you can use white bass, striper, excellent baits. Black bass, excellent baits. Crappie, excellent baits. You're not allowed to use them in certain places, but catfish like them.
I also see we're talking about fish in lakes versus rivers moving around. Chris, do you feel? I see where they say the river, they feel that they move. You being a lake guy, you know, like you were just saying, they're going to be within that radius that you told us about.
For my buddies that fish both, current is the predominant force in a river. In a lake, we don't have current. So it's purely weather and water temperature based. Where is the bait going? Because water temperature and what the weather has been. Is there been rain coming into the lake? Which way's the wind been blowing? How long's the wind been blowing? What's the water temp? And then if you key all those things in, you can build a pattern. Now, this time of year, water temp is same temperature 60 feet deep as it is 2 feet deep. So that's why it becomes very difficult in a lake that doesn't have current this time of year. And a lot of guys don't really understand why these guys complain in these lakes about, this time of year. Well, that's why. Fish scatter. There is no real pattern to target them unless you've got flow coming into your lake. Some of these big lakes have a big river system feeding them. None of the lakes I fish have a major river feeding them. There's small rivers that are seasonal, have seasonal flow. There's no flow right now. So Tim says he cut a main artery and missed his ligaments by 2 millimeters.
Oh, man.
Damn, son. That ain't good. Post cold front. Yeah, I think we already discussed that. Good evening, Top 777. Welcome in.
I see a question here, Chris. I know myself and you both, we could probably I've noticed you don't use bluegill much, but it's what I get other than smaller shad. Would you drag bluegill live or fillet it?
Bluegill work great. I've caught tons of giant fish off bluegill. Most of our lakes have a ton of bluegill. Blue cats key in on bluegill. If you're on a timber lake, bluegill can be some of the best bait. The thing with bluegill is it's hard for me to get them in my net. I used to get them out of my neighbor's pond. I hammer big fish all year. Doesn't matter what time of year. Blue cats love bluegill, green sunfish, red ears, any type of sunfish. They love them. I don't think there's any real time of year. There's bluegill, if there's bluegill in your fishery, blue cats it's on their diet, guaranteed.
Are you filleting them up, Chris, or are you using them live?
When I fish them, I've always filleted them. I fillet them down one side. I leave the flapper on a bluegill most of the time. Unless I'm short on baits, then I'll go ahead and fillet that thing off, including the tail. And then I trim that fin off of the tail, and I'll hook them through that thick part of the back of the tail. And I use those bluegill whole.
Yeah, the only time
any lake that's got a lot of bluegill, catfish are going to eat them.
That's it.
Guaranteed.
Anytime I use a bluegill, if I'm anchor fishing and going after flatheads, that's the only time I'll use them live.
That's when I use them live.
Yeah, only time I'll use them live. Other than that, I'm like you. I'm filleting them, and they're daggone good bait. They really
I like the baits kind of for really big fish. I like them whole.
Yep.
Like them looking like they just got banged up real good and they're dying. That's the beauty of dragging. You're dragging them along. They look, even if they're shredded, that the catfish doesn't know that. He just thinks, so this thing's moving. I better freaking grab it, try to destroy that thing before it gets away. So.
All right. When temperatures are up and down like this time of the year, are you throwing out a mix of rigs, floating baits off the bottom, or not floating baits on the bottom?
I use a Santee rig. I'm typically about 2 to 3 feet off the bottom. I had some shorter rigs on Monday because it was the north front, and then the wind died. They didn't want them. They didn't want small baits. They didn't want what I thought they might have wanted. They didn't want. They wanted big baits. They wanted a long leader, and that's what they hit. So you never know with a north front. I always say a north front is a 50-50 day. You're either generally going to do pretty damn good, or you're going to really take a beating. I took a beating. I got lucky at the very end. Persistence pays off. Des says, "Go big or go home in 50-degree water." And you know how I roll, Des.
Yeah, guys. The difference we were talking about a while ago. I went actually Saturday night. I went shorter and caught more fish on shorter leaders Saturday night than I did my longer leaders, and that's one of the things I just saw that is something that is good that you're going to have to learn, knowing the days or the nights to use your longer leaders compared to your shorter leaders.
I typically go shorter when I got the day after a north front, when it's a high pressure day, fish are laying down in the mud. You got no wind. Fish are pretty lethargic. I'll shorten my leaders on those days. I'm trying to fish about a foot off the bottom. And I'll also downsize on those days, but I'll always have some big baits out.
And that's another good thing, Chris, how we do the rattles, where we make them where you can adjust them. It makes it so much easier, being able to just go out there and say, man, today I think I need to go shorter on this float, adjust this longer, just learning different little techniques like that to help you on certain days. Bluebird sky days, you're going to do things different than you will on a cloudy day. Or,
Catfish Junkie says during the day he fishes marks. At night, he fishes where the bait is on the Mississippi River. I typically fish where I'm marking big fish. There's so much bait in our lakes right now to say, go. That's the old saying of, find the bait, find the fish. That just doesn't work in the lake. There's bait everywhere. So I find the fish, and hopefully they're biting. And if they're not, I move.
Chris, are you using sliders for your weights?
I'm dragging. I'm using sliders for sure. And I'll tell you why. Number one, when I'm sending my stuff long, okay. Now in the spring, I use a 3-way swivel on a Santee rig. That's because I anchor shallow and then I'll drag the same day. When you're anchoring shallow, slides don't work because your stuff will be floating on the top. So that's why I use the 3-way rig. But one thing is that when I'm using the 3-way rig, my crap is tangled constantly when I'm dragging. When I'm sending that stuff long, it tangles on itself. I reel the stuff back in and everything's messed up. It happens a considerable amount more. When you're using a sinker slide, when you cast it, it breaks free from your rig. It never tangles. It's very, and I don't say never, but it is very rare that all that gets tangled on itself when your cat's sending them long. I don't just drop my stuff in. I like to send them out there and get my stuff out as quick as possible when I make a move. So now as far as fish catching, I just feel like when I'm using that sinker slide on a day where they don't really turn it, when they grab it, they don't turn and run. They just latch on, and then you start kind of pulling them. I feel like they're less those days they can be kind of weight shy sometimes. So when they feel that three-way rig pick up off the bottom, they drop it and it's gone. But I feel like on that sinker slide, it never picks up off the bottom, and it's just more subtle. I feel like it does me better on those no wind, short strike type days. That's when I think the sinker slide outperforms fish catching wise. But other than that, for me, it's about the snags. Sinker slide doesn't snag on your rig like the three-way swivel.
That's it. Chris Richard was asking, would you use dead eel for bait you bought through the mail?
What's that?
Would you use dead eel for bait if you bought through the mail?
I don't use eel, man. That's your game. So why don't you tell us?
Well, I'll tell you, if the eel is frozen, I'm not going to use it. That freezer takes all of that chemicals in the body and just dries it out. All that oil, It dries it out. The only time I'll use dead eel is pretty much if that thing has not been frozen. If I go and it's in a bag, it's dead.
I typically don't use anything frozen.
Yeah.
I know guys do use skipjack and stuff like that. Not me. I use fresh, caught that day or the night before.
Yeah.
Paul Dylan Anderson says, do you think fish move more in a river versus a lake? So, Jamie, you tournament fish both. Do they tell us the main difference between the two?
That one, Chris, is pretty much like you were talking about. We were hitting up on the movement of the lake a while ago. I can say from a river, fishing the rivers, I do see a lot more movement from the fish. And like we said, that's typically because of the tide. You know, how it moves that bait, and it moves those fish a lot more than a lake that doesn't have that current. So
do they become more predictable due to current?
They really do. They really do. I can pretty much say
buddies that fish both and do well, they all say, river fish are very predictable. Lake fish, which direction? Where did they go? It becomes it's a lot. There's a lot more variables that is what makes a fish move in a lake than what does in a river. From what I understand.
There is, Chris, because I can go to
current, flow, rising, falling.
That's it. Every 6 hours, that thing's turning around. It's coming in, it's going out, back and forth. A lake, when I was talking about a while back, when I started fishing Santee Cooper and doing tournaments in a lake, I'm like, oh crap, this is not nothing like the river. You can't hardly take a lot of the stuff from what you're doing on the river and take it to the lake. The structures, you got to find that's totally different in the lakes. It's not like the rivers. All the structures are up on the sides or on the curves, all jammed up and stuff. It's totally different. I can go to a river and I can pretty much take you to some structures and say, yeah, there's going to be fish here. Yeah, there's going to be fish here. They're going to be where a lot of that structure is a lot of times.
Yeah.
When you, like you say, you go to that lake, you look, now it's wide open. Holy shit, where's these fish at? You got to find that pattern.
Yeah.
And that's what we were saying from Saturday night. We scanned for 2 hours. The river, I could scan for 10 minutes and boom, I'm ready. Let's fish. I mean, it's that predictable on a river. And a lot of these guys that
bigger meal, more energy with less effort. And that's exactly it, Michael. That's it. And as the water gets colder, the game fish, bigger baits become more lethargic. Big blue cats, yes, they are more lethargic, but they are more active than any other fish in the lake. They can be very active in super cold water, whereas most fish just sit there. And that's why big fish, when the water gets real cold, they like to go get that easy big bait that's sitting there and that's not even going to run from them when they just come up and freaking hammer it. And if it's injured, like when you drag, like you're presenting it when you're dragging, that's why dragging a whole bait that's, with the fillet missing down the side, they can't freaking resist it. I think that's why really big fish in the winter like big baits.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I said he'll catch and freeze sand bass. Now myself, like you, I don't use no frozen baits. There is a lot of people out there that will, use frozen baits and stuff, But how? I don't know. I don't use sand bass here. How's sand bass as far as when you freezing it?
I don't freeze anything, Jamie.
Yeah, that's what I was
saying.
Yeah.
To me, it makes a difference to have fresh bait.
There's
the enzymes in bait. There's two types of enzymes. There's enzymes when the fish is alive, and then there's enzymes when the fish is breaking down. Fish can sense that. If they know when the fish has got live enzymes in it from when the fish was been killed, and after 3 days, those live enzymes are dead. New enzymes start exploding inside of a dead fish to deteriorate the fish.
Yeah.
And just as those live ones, they can smell that juice coming out and they think, oh, this one's alive. I'm going to eat it. The same goes for one that's dead. They can sense that thing's dead and rotten. And blue cats, they're predators. I know they're eating a dead piece of bait, but they think that thing just died. And that's why fresh bait works better. It's the living enzymes that are inside a fresh piece of bait. When you freeze it, you kill those things.
Yeah.
Now it's at basically at zero when after you thaw it out. There's no live enzymes. There's no dead enzymes. When I say dead enzymes, the enzymes that are alive in a dead animal. So that's what the magic of fresh bait is. There's living enzymes in that juice that fish can sense or smell or taste or whatever.
And that's like we were talking about a while ago, the eel, it's the oils and stuff that gets dried out when you freeze all that, you lose all that. And, that's one of the reasons why I love fresh eel.
Trent, what's up, bro? Joshua Allen Davis, welcome in, buddy.
Richard, if you just put those in water, I can promise you for one day that stuff is going to be right, brother.
LB, you fishing the tournament this weekend at Keystone? Let me know. You got a buddy that's coming up there. I got way behind, so let me catch up.
I was going back through here, Chris, making sure we didn't miss anything. But I'm glad.
Fish lately come off bluegill and live or cut, and you can catch big fish off bluegill year round, live or cut.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed. I've done it for freaking 20 years. Yeah, I don't do it as much anymore because I lost access to my neighbor's pond. I used to go over there, throw the net. One time I'd have a whole freaking net load of giant freaking bluegill. It was the easiest bait run a guy could ever want. But He moved. New neighbor I don't want to mess with. So.
Yeah, I want to hit that deal about, that's been a thing a lot of people argue with me about. I wanted to hit that deal about the frozen baits, and get that out of the way, because I felt that was important for a lot of, everybody. The fresher you can keep your baits, the better off it is. Now, I see some talk about keeping it on ice for a day.
I can keep them on ice for a day, and I've caught plenty of fish on 3-day-old bait.
Yeah.
But I feel like on day 3, and I know, not only do I feel like it, but I've also studied it enough to know that an animal that's dead for 3 days, the enzymes change. The ones that were in the animal when it was alive die.
Yeah.
And a new bloom of enzymes explodes in something that's 3 days old, and it starts deteriorating. So if you keep it on ice, it's good for 3 days. I can guarantee you 3-day-old bait will still catch fish. Now, it may not be as good as the bait that's you caught that morning, but it still works good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Day 4, I can tell you there's going to be a sharp decline in that bait. Guaranteed.
Yeah. And Richard, also as far as the eel, you can keep it in water on the ice and it'll work perfect. As long as you keep that eel moist. Keep it, not frozen where it can dry it out, but keep it moist. You're going to be good with that stuff. And I can tell you will catch a lot of fish with it.
I switched everything out to 10-0s Monday. I tied them on Sunday night, and that's what I fished with. So I'm not looking for fish that are under 20 pounds. And, we caught a teener and some 10s off a 10-aught hook. You can still catch smaller fish, but it's just not what I'm targeting starting now. It's time to catch big fish. So, yes, it's time to switch them out because big fish are they're going to start playing after this front.
I'm using all 10s right now myself.
Busby says he'll catch and freeze sand bass. I'm just trying to get caught up. I know Jamie's already gone through a lot of this. Yes, Leland, big fish follow around sand bass like puppy dogs 85 to 90% of the year. Most definitely, 1,000%. They love white bass, and they're not just there feeding off of injured bait fish that the white bass are feeding on. They are feeding on the white bass, I can assure you. It's freaking guaranteed. I've had tons of white bass thrown up in the deck of my boat or in the live well. So,
yeah, you can still catch small fish on 10-aughts.
Yeah. I mean, we caught some 5-pounder, a couple, 2 or 3 5-pounders. I mean, we also had some that were chewing that, with the smaller hook and a small bait, we probably could have caught them, but I'm not trying to do all that. Yeah, Trinity Outdoor says when he uses bluegill for cut bait, I keep it alive right up until it goes on the hook, and that's what I did, Randall. If I've got bait that's hardy, I always keep it alive because at the end of the day, I like to turn it loose. Makes me feel good to turn loose bait. I don't call me a purist. I just think you should try to only use what you need. Getting a whole cooler full of bait, just killing it just for the hell of it, and then throwing it all out at the end of the day is pretty much a waste. So if you got bluegill and you can keep them alive, use the ones that are alive, and at the end of the day, turn the rest loose or go put them in your bait tank at home or whatever. So I can't stand seeing guys get a whole cooler of fish bait for one trip. Because I mean, they're using 6 weeks worth of bait. They got 6 weeks worth of bait in their cooler.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I know exactly what it takes for me to fish. I typically try to get double that.
Chris, that's like me, man. That bait tank we got every tournament, every time we get done, before we leave that water, I'm releasing those bait fish out for next time. Exact same thing. I'm not taking that stuff home or nothing like that.
Yeah, I put it on ice, Richard. So when if I'm travel fishing up at let's say I'm travel fishing. I'll get the bait the night before, put it on ice. And if I can't go get it the night before, I'm calling my guide buddies to find out which one's on the water and which one can get me bait. And then I'll keep it on ice. And I'm comfortable using 3-day-old fish. I'm comfortable using 3-day-old bait to fish. I hammer them on it. I'm not comfortable using it old over 3 days. I won't do it. I'd rather just wing it and try to go get bait that morning if I have to do that. I'm not going to use bait that's 4 days old.
Yeah.
Even if I'm out travel fishing and it's let's say I got a multi-day trip and my bait's 4 days old on the second day of fishing, that morning I'm going to get bait. I'm not using that 4-day-old bait. Because if I have a bad day, I know exactly what I'm going to be thinking the whole time. Why am I using this freaking old bait?
Yep.
It's happened too many times. And then I'm like, hell with it. I'm going to go get fresh bait. I go get fresh bait, immediately start catching fish. So fresh is best. It's worth putting in the work to get it, in my mind.
Yeah, and that's especially in the summertime because that bait starts breaking down and falling apart. I mean, 3 days old, yeah, for sure. I was just
AJ Neighbor says I use bait for 2 days on ice and then I need to start looking for new bait. That's pretty much me. I'll use it 3 days. Well, the bait that I'm using will last 3 days. And once it starts getting red-eyed and all that, it's worthless. Get rid of it. It's not going to catch. I mean, you can catch a few fish. And there are times when they don't really mind a fish that's been dead for a week, but that's not typical. Typically, that's going to really hurt your fishing, having old bait. Busby still catches small fish on 10-0. Yes, you can. You just won't catch as many.
Guys, if y'all have any questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat so we can anything you want to talk about.
Tough to keep bait for 3 days in the summer. Well, not in a refrigerator. Put it in the fridge. Typically, if I'm using 3-day-old bait, it's because I know I'm going travel fishing on Sunday. I don't have time to go get bait. And my guide buddy tells me, I'm fishing Friday. I can get you bait Friday. All right. Well, I mean, I'll take it.
Jeff, oh man, Jeff Martin. Chris, how do you cut your large frozen bait?
Jeff knows how hard I'll work for bait because some days it takes me hours to get what I need. And he's a good learner. He's learned the same thing. I tell him, don't even freaking come out here if you don't have the right bait, man. I mean, don't even freaking go fishing. Find what you need and then go fishing. Don't say, well, I'm just going to wing. Man, occasionally, you'll have to just wing it. You'll say, okay, well, I got 2 good ones. I'll use the rest of these small ones, but you're better off grinding it out and put, it costs a lot, these damn high dollar nets for deep water nets, especially Jeff when he's over there ripping $200 nets.
Chris, where do you look for shad in a lake in a front, like I guess where we are having?
God, bait is tough right now, especially big baits. So I would recommend finding a different species other than shad. Anything. Use anything. Whatever you can get. Right now, it's not so dependent on a certain species of bait. Fish are really scattered. Catfish are really scattered. Bait's really scattered. They're not on a specific pattern. They will eat whatever's in front of them if they're hungry. So just whatever you can get that will stay on the hook. Carp, buffalo, drum. If you can get shad, good shad are hard to find, but Jeff said he just got his second Phytech for $99 today. 11,970. That's the net I use. You can find them usually for about $130 on sale. Typically, they're about $200. Right now, you can't even find them. They're sold out everywhere.
Chris, what was your dragging speed this time of year? I know Eagle Eye Tender said 5 to 7 for him.
I was going 0.4 Monday with no wind. I was going 0.6 with wind and not catching a damn thing when I had wind. So I don't know why, I do know we had a north wind blowing, and then as it died down, it was kind of out of the west a little bit. So, out of the east, which isn't any much really better, but for whatever reason, I started catching them when that wind died. But week before, I was going slow, 0.3, 0.4 with zero wind. As soon as we got wind, I bumped it up to 0.5 and started just catching fish right after the next for about 45 minutes. Yeah. And then the wind died again. So
0.3 to 0.4 Saturday night was working good for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think if you don't have wind, go slow. If you've got wind, you can go a little faster. If it's cold, go slow as you can. If the water's a little warmer, you can go faster. Just depends how aggressive the fish are. How hard are they hammering your baits? If they're hammering it and running, means they're super active. You can go a little faster. They're willing to chase it. If they're not, you better slow down. You might not catch a damn fish. So one thing is, guys that come fish with me, they're like, I can't freaking believe how slow you go. They're like, your planer boards aren't even spreading. I'm like, you're too worried about spreading planer boards rather than catching fish. The fish want it slow. What do you care about where your planer boards are? Care about presentation. Get your presentation right. And your fish catching will take care of itself.
A trick question for you, Chris. What are you dragging? Are you dragging more points, more ledges, more flats right now?
Got to
pretty much everything.
Freaking look at everything where the fish are at. Fish are on the move right now, man. They could be anywhere. And when I say anywhere, they're all scattered. But to find a small little group of them somewhere, that's what I'm looking for. Anything where I can see, congregation of a couple hundred fish instead of, I'm not looking for 10 acres of fish. I'm looking for a half acre of fish now. You know what I mean? It's just very small. If you're going to find a group, it's going to be a small one right now. They're just not grouped up good.
Pretty much the groups I seen was pretty much 3 to 4 Saturday night was pretty much what I found grouped up together. I didn't find nothing no more than that grouped up together Saturday night.
So you'd see a group here, but were they on a specific piece of structure?
They were holding real tight to structures, and I could find on say like a maybe 2 trees. I could find 3 to 4 fish on that 2 trees. Then I couldn't see anything for a while. It was just like you said, they were scattered. But that's as many fish.
These channels early morning have been holding good shad. Well, our northernmost lake, which is Texoma, has got a thermocline of 40 feet. You go any deeper than 40 feet, it's like the lunar surface of the moon. There ain't a damn thing down there. And then our North Texas lakes, down to Central Texas lakes, there's been a thermocline in 20, 25 feet. So you got to stay above that. So all that's going to change today and tomorrow. That's going to be done. Thermocline is going to be done. So Jeff says you got to go slow until the bait thaws out, right, Chris?
Oh man.
Yeah, that's right.
I see a new decal coming.
Time went away a few weeks ago. Yeah, well, ours should be gone after tomorrow. Today it might have gone away, but tomorrow we got temperatures in the 40s, high at 69. Lakes are going to start turning over, so should be go time. I'd say one more cold front, and it'll be big fish every trip after that. It's been a warm fall so far.
Yeah, Chris, I was going to ask you.
Low last night was 30. Well, if we had those temps, I'd be freaking smashing giants every trip.
You'd be out there tomorrow. You'd be going tomorrow, probably.
Yeah, I'd be taking off.
It's coming. It won't be long.
Like that, your big baits are grouped up. Gizzard shad are grouped up. Fish are very patternable. 5 hours north makes a big difference. Hell, usually even Texoma it's only 60 miles north, and or 70 miles north. It's typically 3 weeks ahead of my lake, just being 60, 70 miles north. This year, their temps have been pretty similar to ours, so everything's late right now for us. It's a late start.
Chris, I know we've talked a lot about Lake Texoma, how I guess you could say how moody that place is compared to other places. Do you see that more on other lakes right this second being as moody as that area is, or?
Well, that lake's just a different animal. Super deep. A lot of striper, biggest striper population in the country. Very striper oriented. I don't know, man. It's just different than all of our other lakes. We do have some lakes that are similar, just a lot smaller, but similar natured, but they're just way further south. Temperature wise, it's just different up there on the Oklahoma-Texas border than it is in central Texas, where there's similar like canyon type lakes with the ledge running the whole length of the lake on both sides. It's an awesome lake. It's just not an easy lake to fish, but that's why I like to go up there, man. It's the most challenging lake in Texas. Yes, the opportunity is there to catch a giant, but most guys that go up there just get their asses kicked, and that's part of the fun. It's pits you against that lake. You're going to find out what kind of angler you are if you go up there. It's humbling. It's a very humbling style lake.
Chris, how much of a drop do you look for when looking for ledges?
Oh man, drop could be 5 feet. Drop could be 30 feet. It just depends on what depth the fish are at that day. That's that's going to determine how deep of the ledges I'm going to be looking. Texoma's going to have deep ledges that jump off pretty early, whereas most of our other lakes, you may have, fall right after the fall transition on most of our lakes. Fish are going to be fairly shallow up north where there's rain events, water coming into the lake. You're going to stay up in the top third of the lake. You're going to fish all of that up in there. Typically going to be 5 to 10 feet deep. You get a big major front. Now you're going to be looking for that 10-foot difference. Okay. You're moving from 10 feet now to 20 feet. I'm going to look on that ledge that's in 20 feet. If I'm at Texoma and they've been in 30 feet, all right, now I'm going to look on the ledge that's in 50 feet. I'm looking for that transition from where they've been to deeper water. So if they've been in 10 feet, and we get a big cold front, I'm going to look on the next transition, which is typically 15, 20-foot ledge. And it doesn't need to be a big ledge. It just needs to be significant where they can seek refuge when that front hits. They just like to move a little bit deeper and find that comfort zone. It's not like when that cold front hits, they've been in 10 feet. It's not like 20-foot deep of water. The water temperature is the same after the front. That's why they're moving to it. That top 5-10 feet, it changes. You get a couple of days of cold, it changes. It makes them want to get out of there. They don't like a big major swing in temperature from being comfortable to being cold. That's what drives them, makes them easy to pattern and target.
What wind speed do you stop dragging baits against the wind?
Typically about 10 miles an hour. I've noticed after about 10 miles an hour, the fish all orient into the wind. You can see them on your side image. They are all pointed into the wind. At that point, it becomes more difficult. You can still do it, but it's not just harder, but your production goes down because as they orient into the wind, bait's coming to them. They're hitting bait coming to them. So that's the way I do it. Typically about 10 miles an hour, I'll stop going into the wind. But even light wind, I'm typically not worried about going into the wind. I'm more worried about hitting the targeting structure, the way that I'm trying to target it. If it's a long ledge, I'm not worried about which direction. If it's 10 mile an hour or less, I'm not worried about the wind direction. I'm more worried about hitting that ledge a certain way. More worried about hitting that hump a certain way, the channel a certain way,
yep.
the shoreline contour. A lot of times I'm crosswind. If it's 10 mile an hour or less, it's not easy, but I'm going across the wind, and everything's like sideways and blowing weird. But
what are some of your techniques, Chris? What are some of your techniques that you're having to use to stay within on that target? If say you got the wind, you got a target you're trying to hit.
Man, you need a smart trolling motor for sure. An iPilot link type deal where you can hit the go-to button. Without that, man, it's difficult to be able to target structure in a specific type of way in a crosswind. If you've got that go-to feature, you can pinpoint. Let's say it's a long ridge type hump that's like what I fished Monday. It was a long ridge. It was not a very wide hump. It was a very skinny, long, probably about, a quarter to a half mile long ridge underwater. It was in 30 feet and everything around it was 35 feet. It was a crosswind. I had to freaking run across the wind. If you can't just use auto, or you can't just use what is it? Autopilot? No.
Yeah.
Is it auto? I can't remember. You can't just point the nose of the boat in a certain direction and it take you along it. The wind's going to blow you off of there.
Yeah.
So hitting go-to, you can put a pin on the north side of that ridge, and as you pin that ridge and hit go-to, your boat's going to be turned sideways, but your trolling motor is going to take you along that ridge, and that's the only way I could have done it. There's no way I could have manually done it. I fish ledges a lot too. A lot of times the wind is blowing into a ledge. That's what makes it good. The wind's blowing into the ledge. It's not blowing across it. It's blowing into it. That's why the fish are there.
Yeah.
In order to fish it, you either got to put your nose into the wind, drag your stuff out onto the ledge and spot lock, which I've done that. But ideally, if the fish are all lined up on that ledge, you want to run that ledge. That's what that go-to button will do. It'll allow you to run that ledge, even though the back end of your boat's crossways. You can spread your rods and stuff out along, I got enough. I got 30 rod holders on my boat.
And see, you were talking about hitting that feature where you manually, doing it. I see a lot of guys trying to do that with that crosswind and stuff. And you watch and they're all messed up and stuff. And you watch their boards, it's like, oh man, you're messing up, brother. But yeah, that go-to feature, that's something nice. It really is. But like you said, I've got rod holders from the front to back. I will take some of them rods and spread them out to the front of the boat.
That's the way you got to do it. My buddies are like, how do you do it with the back twisted? I'm like, well, you're not going to be able to fish everything on your multi-bars. You need to have some rod holders on the side of your boat, like old school way where we did it. We used to turn our boat sideways and, just let the wind.
That's it.
The boat would be sideways. You'd be rocking and rolling the whole day. By the end of the day, when you were in bed at night,
you felt like you were
still in the lake.
That's it. That's how we done the pontoon boat, man. It was like, damn, this thing I'm still rocking.
It's a beating.
It is.
Like and especially if you're in big water, big wind, it will kick your butt. But fishing out the back, using a smart trolling motor has really changed the game. I would have never been able to fish that ridge that I fished Monday. I would have never been able to fish that 15 years ago.
Now let me ask you this: do you feel that the industry is bypassing the fishermen? What I'm trying to say is, do you feel the technology is getting so far out there, advanced, that it's making it so hard for a lot of the fishermen anymore to understand it?
Well, I think, for a new guy, it's overwhelming. It's like learning a different language. But for guys that have been doing it a long time, it's just every time something gets added, it's just another layer. Like, it's not that much to learn a new feature. So Humminbird is about to change everything.
Yeah.
They're switching it up. They're having the biggest technological changes on all of their stuff as they've ever had in the history of Humminbird.
Yep.
So it's going to completely change everything. And so what is that going to mean? Hell, I don't know. I mean, they keep everything so top secret. But I do know some of the features. They're going to have a drift feature where you can point a line on the lake. It's almost like the go-to feature. But instead of having to pin like points, you can hit that drift mode and it'll hold you on a line. You can basically draw a line across anywhere on the lake, and then it'll keep you on that line instead of the autopilot feature where it points you in a direction, but then the wind's also blowing you and it blows you off that course. This drift mode is going to hold you on that course, which for me is going to be that's going to be an awesome feature.
So you think that some of this technology is going to be a lot more user friendly and make it a lot easier?
It is if you've got the base knowledge. It's like this: guys that have never used any of this stuff, you try to go use it and you're like, holy crap, I don't even know where to start. It can mess up your fishing big time trying to learn all that stuff. But once you learn it, it's a weapon, and I think all this new stuff coming out, it's going to be the same. It's going to be overwhelming in the beginning, but as you learn it, it's going to be, I know, like, for instance, the GPS unit is all going to be in the head unit now. It's not going to be partly in the trolling motor. There's no puck GPS compass in the puck. It's going to be all in the head unit. It's going to be way more accurate. There's not going to be all the glitches and stuff, because you used to have one in the trolling motor head. My boat's 23 feet long. It's quite a ways from my trolling motor head to my unit. So they're communicating, and I'm putting in pinning stuff, and it's 15 feet off from where the graph, the transducer is 23 feet away from the GPS unit. So it's hard. It's all.
And if you watch that stuff,
streamlined, it's going to communicate seamlessly.
Nice.
They've waited to do this update, I think, for 4 years because of COVID. because they had the technology then, but they waited. So it's going to be a game changer for I think for catfishing. Some of the new stuff that Hummingbird's coming out with is going to be really good.
I'm like you, Chris. I can't wait to see some of the new stuff. I can't wait to see how friendly, like you said, how much friendlier some of it could be.
Yeah, I've had my unit for 10 years, Hummingbird, the Helix Gen 2, 9 years actually. I had the Helix Gen 1 for a year, and then they came out with the Gen 2 Helix Mega Gen 2, and I sold my Gen 1 and got the Gen 2, and I've had that 9 years. It's been an awesome graph. And my installer that owns the electronics company, that owns the electronic fish finder store, he's like, man, when are you gonna get a new graph? I'm like, when they come out with something that's gonna change it's gonna be a dramatic improvement over what's there already. He's like, well, they got $500 rebates, and I'm like, well, that tells me right there something else is about to come. And sure enough, they've announced it. You can go on; they got a video that tells about all the new features that Hummingbird's going to be doing. The mapping is internal. The mapping is going to be a big upgrade. It's one of the major upgrades in it. That drift, and then having a single Jeep, and it's some new generation of GPS. It's going to be much more. It's going to be very much more pinpointed rather than kind of, okay, it's 5 feet over here. No, it's 3 feet over here. It's not going to be doing all this. It's going to be locked on now. So also the new trolling motors are way beefier. They have a 30% more efficiency. They've got a power save mode now. They're just way more powerful. It's going to cost money, but I mean, fishing's gotten expensive, man.
I tell you, brother, man, them things, you're pretty much having to go take a bank loan anymore to go buy some of this stuff. It's crazy. It really is.
So West Texas Cat Addict says, I got a question. When you're double hook fishing, are you hooked the big bait behind the dorsal fin and you threading that back hook through, burying in the eye? So no, front hook is going to be through the lip. I go through the bottom jaw up through the nostril. I want that thing swimming. I don't want it cockamamie going sideways. I want that thing coming through the water just like a fish. The back hook, I want it long enough where it's sticking out. See if I got a hook laying around. Took everything to the boat. I got some old hooks. Grab one.
Yeah, guys, while Chris is going to go find a hook, if y'all have any more questions, feel free to ask. Definitely put it up in chat. Ready for some big cats, boys? Yes, sir. We all getting ready for that. That's for sure.
Okay, here's typically the size bait I'm using. Okay. Here's the nose. You're going to put this thing through the nose. Okay, here's the tail. Here's the tail. This thing's going to be riding like this. Ideally, that's how you want it to ride. And that way, if this thing spins, and it will spin from time to time, it's free. Really, mine's riding about like that. That's how I rig them.
this info to work successfully before too long.
Bill, we've been on them, just not real good. We've been getting them every trip, last 3 trips. So nothing cheap about fishing these days. If you're serious about it.
Chris, I believe we need
missing a few. If you're missing them, a lot of times that back hook's foul hook. So try to keep it clear of the bait. That'll help. Also, it's the way that they're biting. A lot of times, if you're a really big fish, when they come hit a big bait, got this big bait swimming along, right? Here he comes. He's swimming along. Big fish comes up and bites this thing and tries to crush it. Sometimes he's doing this. And when he bites, he also tail whips. So he does this number. Bang. When he does that, okay, you ought to be able to tell from that tail whip what size fish it is. If it's a small fish he's chewing on it, it's going to be like that. If it's a big fish, the tail whip is going to be like wham, wham. And you'll see the rod tip's going to go more like that. That's a big fish. Okay. When you see that, they're going to come back. They generally always come back because they're doing an injury bite. They just want to bite the crap out of that thing. So get over there where you're not waiting for them to take the thing down. That's where a lot of guys make the mistake. You don't just wait till the rod's it starts running, has a fish on. Okay, when they crush that thing and they bend, when that thing bends, you crank down on that thing. That's when you're going to get that sucker who's over there. When he does that, you crank on him, bang, and you're going to get him. And if you don't do that, you will miss a lot of fish. So there's a trick to getting them. Bill will tell you. My boy Killer B will tell you. He came fishing with me on a day like that, and I'm going to throw Bill under the bus. He lost a dozen big fish before he figured out how he needed to hook them. And then after that, we freaking laid waste to the lake. So there is a trick to using stinger hooks for really big fish. You got to wait until they bite, they do that injury bite, and they tail whip. And you got to be right there when they're tail whipping, and that's when you crank down on them, and you'll get them. You'll get them almost every time like that. If you don't, you'll lose damn near every fish. And Bill's an excellent fisherman. I can tell you right now, Bill's a high-level fisherman. He was getting his ass kicked that day. He's like, Chris, help me out here. What's going on? Because I just letting him get his ass kicked, and eventually I was like, Bill, all right, this is what you got to do. And so he did it. He got it down, and we were freaking hammering him after that. We had a great day. So
Chris, I think we're getting to a point in our shows where we need to get one of them chalkboards right here so we can start doing the drawings right there behind you and stuff. I love it.
Like epic catfish French rolls and stuff is bait.
That's it. So we need to get you either a pull down with a pointed marker or a chalkboard right there.
Bill, it's almost time for Texoma. I fished Texoma Monday. We took a beating. We got a 30 and some 20s and a teener. But it's about to turn on up there, buddy. One more good cold front, and it's go time. Just come jump on my boat and leave the kayak at home. Lake's not turned over yet, but I imagine after tomorrow, about half the lake will have turned over. Will begin turning over. Bill says he's been bull redfish. You been down at the coast? Yeah, it's that time of year. Bill's big saltwater kayak guy. Bull reds, you name it. Bull sharks, massive sharks. Anything salt oriented, he can catch it.
Can't be recovering your rods all the time, Bill.
Oh, yeah. So that's right. Jason was with me when we pulled Bill's rod out. I'll go ahead and tell the story. So Bill's up at Texoma when I was on an Operation Vets with Nets trip with Jason and his father-in-law. And we were dragging and we got into a snag and it's a big log. I saw the big log. I'm like, damn, there's a big log down there. We got into it and we got one of our rods hung up. And I'm like, damn, we're hung. So I crank down on it and I'm like, I pull and it comes free. And I reel it in and it's got a freaking fresh, shiny, brand new rod and reel on.
Damn.
I hung it, I reel it in. I'm like, damn, this thing hadn't been in the water more than a day or two. Like, look at that. That's a nice rod and reel. And Jason's like, man, something's wrong with the eyes. So I looked at it. He's like, the eyes are all messed up from you pulling on it. And I looked at it. I'm like, no, this is actually a custom rod. This is called an acid wrap, where they wrap the eyes around that rod so that when you get a fish and you're fighting it straight under the boat in saltwater, the eyes on the bottom of the rod. So you're fighting fish straight down. I was like, I've never known anybody that's had one of these rods besides my buddy Bill. I was like, he's like, well, I told Jason, he's like, you want it? And I'm like, man, no. I was like, I'm freaking Mad Cats, I was like, you can have it. It's like, let me call Bill and see what this thing's worth. And I call Bill and Bill's like, he's like, hey man, how's it going? And I'm like, oh, so we just got out here. We just got hung up. I hung into this. He's like, yeah, I took a spill. I'm in the kayak. I fell over. I'm like, oh yeah. We just reeled up a rod. We just caught a rod. It's got an acid wrap on it. And he's like, well, I'm up here at Texoma. I took a spill. I'm like, you're up here? I'm like, and Bill is over in Fort Worth. He's a long way from Texoma. He's like, yeah, I'm up here. I'm like, I just caught your rod. So I don't know what the odds are of that, but it's like winning the lottery that Bill was up there the same day I was. It's not our home lake. It's 2.5 hours from Bill's house. It's an hour and a half from my house. And him taking a spill in the kayak, he got hung up on a jug line that was in a tree. And he spilled over and lost 2 of his custom rods. $500 rod and reel setup.
Man.
It was cool that I got to return it to him, and Bill's like, "No, man, that's y'all. You found it. It's yours." I'm like, "Man, I ain't keeping your rod." I was like, "I know. I already told him he could have it, but this is your rod. You're getting your rod back." And that was greatness. So glad I could be there that day, Bill. That was awesome, bro.
That was cool, man. That's something that don't happen every day, I promise you.
Never happened to me. I mean, I've caught rods before, but never. They've all been covered with moss, and it was crazy.
Jeff said he bets it had frozen bait on it. Oh my goodness. Just something else, boy.
Yeah, but I noticed in Bill's video he's still using the rod. So one of the eyes was bent. I don't know if it must have been. I don't know, if I caught the rod with the eye with the hook. I had bent one of the eyes, but it's all right. I've got rods with bent eyes, and they still catch fish.
That's it. Going back through, making sure I haven't missed anything.
Bill says he fixed it. Good deal, man.
Nice.
Well, Jamie.
Man, another terrific show, man.
I've had fun.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah, brother.
Anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
Well, I'm hoping we got some new things coming this week, next week, and the week after. We're gonna be releasing one new item per week.
Oh man.
Yeah, so y'all guys stand by for that. It won't be too long. We're testing out some new stuff. Matter of fact, Chris, myself.
Yeah, I got some stuff tested. I didn't get a good test on it this past weekend. Hopefully our fishing picks up. I mean,
there you go. So yeah, guys, we working hard behind the scenes. We like I said, we're staying busy. So some new stuff getting ready to come out, and we can't wait. So hopefully, if everything goes right, maybe tomorrow. I'm hoping we could be releasing something new tomorrow. Jeff. CLW custom flashbang freezer.
I know one thing. If somebody could come up with a 7-foot taped cast net with 1.5 pound weights per foot, they'd be rich because you can't freaking buy them anywhere. They're sold out 80% of the year now. I guess there's just so many more catfishermen now they can't keep up with deep water net demand. It's like, damn, I need to go into the freaking cast net business.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe one day. But yeah, I mean, guys, we love doing these shows, talking about some stuff, helping y'all guys out. That's what we're here for, and it's a lot of fun. Anytime we can help anybody out.
Killer B, that was shitty fisherman Jason that gave the rod back. It wasn't up to him. I told him he's giving I was like, I know I told you could have it, but we're giving that rod back. He's like, oh, of course. And he didn't have a problem with that at all. He's like, of course. He's like, I wouldn't have it any other way. He's like, I feel awesome that we were able to do that for him. So that was a great day, great story, great memory.
Chris, yes, I want to tell everybody, all t-shirts right now are only $10, guys. You don't need a code. All t-shirts, we've already done the price reducing. We're having a closet clean out. All hoodies that we have in stock right now are only $15. So t-shirts are $10. Hoodies, like you see right here behind me, are only $15. And all hats are shipping for free, guys. So we're running a closet sale right now. So if you haven't, take advantage of it while that's going on.
Yeah, that was a great day. And I think Bill ended up catching some big fish on that trip too. Same line we were on. A little later, he started catching about the time we left. So good times, good people. Yeah. Awesome, man. That's all right. Well, guys, it's about time in Texas where we start hammering monsters every week. We're very close. We're catching decent fish, but it's a grind right now. But pretty soon it's going to be freaking full-on monster fest. So I'm looking forward to it. Anybody wants to fish, come holler at me. You're going to have to watch Jackson reel them in, but we can still go out and have fun. It's going to be go time here in the next week or two.
That's it. And also, guys, all drifting weights are 100% back in stock right now also. Rebecca has worked very hard. We've got tons and tons of 4s, 3s, 2s, all of them. Everything's back in stock. So hook it up, man. If you need them, we got them.
It's time to party.
That's right.
Bill, hopefully you're not working the damn Fort Worth stock show this year. We can do some fishing during big fish season. So I'll holler at you soon, man. Trent Hall says the dang weather done held up his order. Well, Trent, it's about time you got head up into the damn stump field, so you better hope they get there quick, or it's going to cost you triple in lost crap.
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing, guys. Some of the areas the weather has held up. I don't know what's going on with that, but we're checking stuff every day, so things should be starting to move. I'm hoping very soon on some of these orders. They keep saying the weather and stuff like that. So,
Leland said, "Are the Action Jackson hooks back in stock yet?"
yes, I will be putting those up tonight. Yes.
Trent says, "Oh, he has them. He just wanted more." That's what he's like, man, I still got the first order. I'm just stocking up.
I can tell you, man, just within the last couple of days, Chris, I think I told you we had one order earlier that had over 55 packs go out on one order.
That's a lot of hooks.
Yeah.
Just for an individual?
Yep. Just for an individual. Bought every size we had.
They must not be using the weights if they're buying that damn many hooks, because
I don't know. New customers coming in, they bought every size we had. Yeah, but we will be adding those back tonight. I will make sure. I'll talk with Mama. I don't know if she forgot that yet or not, but I'll be double checking because I know she was working on the site earlier today. So that's when I said all the weights and everything's back in stock.
Juan, you're fishing when is that Waco tournament? He got the last pack.
I tell you, brother.
Save him a few things, order them tomorrow.
Yeah, as fast as we're putting them up, they're leaving out, man. We appreciate all you guys. I'm glad y'all guys are loving the weights. I've seen somebody. Oh, I see right there. Been loving the weights. Appreciate y'all guys. And like I said, if y'all haven't, they are back up now. Mama says, or Rebecca says, they're back up now, guys, on the site. All hooks are back up on the site right now. So run on over and grab all you need.
Any of you guys ever want a tournament partner? Trent, Juan, Leland, holler at me, man. I'll come run down there and fish with you guys. We don't have tournaments up north anymore. I mean, we were having them at Texoma, and they have some kind of really podunk ones occasionally, but good ones all left. And y'all's tournaments down there are run much better. So I don't fish those lakes a lot, so I would like to go with one of you guys. I can help cheer when we catch one. I can run the graph.
I still see some guys still got their Gen 1 weights, guys. Heck yeah, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, Leland, I know I'd do well if I have a day to look. I just like to go with some guys that know the fishery. I don't mind putting in my 2 cents, obviously, but I'm not just going to kick back and do nothing. Don't generally do too bad when I travel fish. I just don't fish those lakes. So it's nice to go on a lake with somebody who's fished them before, at least not just to know the spots, but to know really, I want to know the hazard areas, so I don't go tearing ass across somewhere I shouldn't be.
I've actually done that before.
Timber don't show up. A lot of timber don't show up on Navionics.
Yeah. So. I've done that in Santee Cooper on the north end with the pontoon boat one morning, myself and Rebecca during the tournament. Turned the light on, Chris. We were in the middle of a stump field, and then my heart just stopped.
I was fishing I fished Tawakoni 4 years ago when the Bassmasters was there. And, none of that timber is on any map. And these guys in the Bass map, they put in on the south end of the lake, and they went tearing ass across this forest that has full-size stumps a foot under the water. I mean, it just like, 50 boats tearing across there, and you could see them just blowing out their freaking.
Man, I've seen some of them boys.
Y'all didn't get the info on the forest? Damn.
I've seen some of them boys replacing some of the foots. Yeah, some of them boys come down to Santee Cooper. They done that in the forest. Tear the foots off, tear some of the bottom of the boat off. It is wild.
I don't mean to be an a-hole. I got a kick out of seeing all those glitter boats freaking tearing across there. I was like, holy crap.
They got some big kahunas.
I don't think they knew any, but they just didn't know any better. Only a few stumps sticking up out there, but there's a giant forest of them. Well, all right, guys. It's go time in Texas. Prepare for Monster Fest. Don't know if it'll be this weekend, but it's a good chance it's going to kick. Some of it's going to kick off at least. And the next cold front's really probably going to be on. So somebody holler at me.
And guys, like I said too, everything is stocked up 100% back up on the Carolina Lake Weight. So we got you back, ready to go. Whatever you need, we got it.
Trent, these lakes get turned over, man. Let's go fish one of these big fish lakes together, buddy. Go see what kind of damage we can do on one. Texoma's where I like to head up to in November, December. A lot of 50s, occasional 60. On a good day, we'll definitely get a 50. That's kind of the measuring mark for us guys in Texas for big fish. All right, Billy, appreciate you coming in, buddy. Everybody else, man, I had a good time.
Me too, man. 6 packs of hooks ordered. All right, brother.
Yep, it's time to strap on the big hooks and start putting on that magic bait, boys. That's what got ours last weekend. Or actually, I fished Monday. I didn't fish the weekend. Big bait.
That day,
got mine on stinger rigs. I thought it was a little early for it, but apparently it's time. So Trent says Gucci bait. David says, I need one of those jerseys, Jamie, so I will at least look important.
Brother, we got them, brother. We got jerseys back here ready to go.
Yep. David, look good, feel good, fish good. I always say it. Guys like, man, do you really need all that? I'm like, yeah. I got to have my shit looking right.
Well, yeah, we got blue ones back there. We got purple. We got orange, and we got them, y'all. Got them stocked up. And those are marked down also, guys. I forgot. Those are only $30 now. They're only $30.
Cheap. That's cheap.
Yeah.
That's cheap for a jersey. That's cheap.
Yeah.
Coming from a guy who has to do the design, that's cheap.
Yeah.
It's incredibly cheap. They look good too.
So, guys, like I said, this is the orange ones. And it also has the quarter zip right here, long sleeve, everything. We have there's the blue one right there. We have blue, we have purple and orange. And I can tell you,
these say CLW fam. Where is it?
Right there. And those have been marked down to $30, guys.
There's the back. Can y'all see that?
Yep. There you go, guys. Yes. David, right now, the only thing we have is the quarter zips because that's what everybody was wanting. I do not have the full zip. Everything is quarter zip, and I can tell you, it's not tied around your neck.
Now, these will get around to even our teammates that got big heads.
Yeah.
I won't mention their names, but
but yeah, guys, all of them are only $30. I forgot to mention those earlier. Also, we done that to so y'all guys could look good and feel good.
Yeah, and fish good.
Hey, something about having a jersey on makes you want to fish. I mean, it does everything for you.
Guys, like, you really need all that? Why do you got to have the matching this and that? And, it's like, because I like it. Makes me feel good.
That's it.
Confidence when I'm out there doing it.
That's it. But yeah, we're doing all that right now for what we call the closet clean out sale, guys. So
yeah, get them out. Get this damn thing sold.
That's it. We got lots of new stuff coming. So y'all stand by for that and jump on the deals right now while you can, guys. That's it, Dave. Got to look good for sure, brother.
Yeah, cat fishermen have changed in the last 5 years. We're the last ones to make the change to, before it was hunting clothes and camouflage and
that's it.
Now it's, hell, even when I go to work, I'm wearing fishing specific clothes because like shit, it's a lifestyle now. I'm a cat fisherman. So.
Myself and
finally they got stuff for us, that don't have a bass on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Everyday clothes for myself and Mama. Well, Mama is Rebecca. Is nothing but CLW stuff. We everything we got is Carolina Lake weights. Carolina Lake weights.
I got just all brands, all whatever people send me, and then I buy a lot too. My wife buys me a ton.
And also, guys, every order receives a free 2x2 decal. Also, guys, with every order, so you receive.
My son likes that.
Yeah,
my son likes that.
So every order gets a free 2x2 decal, guys.
All right. Well, what can we do the show on next week?
Man, so much good stuff out there. We're probably going to be talking about that big fish now. Big fish time.
It's almost there. I don't know if it's there yet. We need the lake to turn over, and then it usually is a little time behind that screws things up. But who knows? Every year's different.
Yep. Yeah, guys, we also, we do have those in 6x6s, 12x12s, and 8x8s also.
All right. I got a couple of 12x12s coming. Right?
Yep. Yes, sir. And these are the 8x8s right here, guys. These are on the site, ready to go. Mama's been making decals pretty much all day, so.
Yeah, Justin, you're like me. I got to stay stocked. I always buy more than I need. I don't know why, but one thing is Carolina Lake weights, you won't lose as much crap. So you won't need as many demon dragons. You'll go through fewer hooks, and you'll find yourself having to recycle your rigs where you're cutting everything off and then retying them all. So, they do save you some money that way.
Yeah. And Chris, this is another big thing. These EVA floats, guys, have been flying out the door. So we got 4 different colors. So jump on these, grab you a cool decal right there also. Appreciate all of you that's grabbing those up.
All right, boys. Appreciate everybody stopping in. Justin, let's go fishing, bro. It's almost time. It was tough fishing Monday. We got her done. It was. I'm gonna head back up there this weekend. I don't expect it to be great, but I expect to catch some good fish. So we'll see how it goes. Billy says he's still got some of the very first weights he got. I do too.
That's awesome to hear, man. I told you the other day, Chris, I can't believe at a lot of the people that still tells us, man, they still got the very first ones that we put out. on the Gen 1s, and here we are on Gen 3s, and it's like, man.
I've got all Gen 1s on my rods, and I actually took half of them off this past trip and put new ones on.
Man.
Just because I want to run some of the Gen 3 just to test them.
Well, guys, I probably got 1,000 of them sitting right here beside me, literally right now, the 4 ounces that we're working on. And we appreciate all you guys.
David, water cools down. They're going to go active. It's not really about where they go. It's just that they get more active and they become more patternable. So they can still be shallow. They can still be deep, but they will group up. They'll be easier to find when you're in the right spot. There's more of them in that spot. They're easier to find instead of just scattered. You'll find larger groups. You'll find larger groups of bait. They just become easier to spot when you're scanning for them. Where do they go after the fall transition? I typically go fairly shallow, 5 to 10 feet. Unless I'm fishing Texoma, then I'm going to go deep. So I'm not sure where you're fishing, but I run 2 ounce. I run them to 40 feet. I run 2 ounce and 40 feet, sometimes even 45. If it's super windy, I might go ahead and switch up to 3 ounce. And when I'm super deep, I go 3 ounce. Right now I'm going 2 ounce. I got 3 ounce on the boat. When they go deep on Texoma, I'll throw on some 3 ounce.
It's always good to have a variety of them for sure. Different days, very windy days.
Yeah, wind and big waves. Sometimes I'll drag 3s. Just depends if I feel like my baits are coming off the bottom. I'm going to put a 3 ounce on. You want enough weight to keep your bait pinned to the bottom, but you don't want too much weight where you're getting more snags. So it's a fine line. You can have too much weight and you're putting yourself in more of a snag risk.
Yeah.
North, as far as going north, up to Texoma, I'm going to be fishing Sunday. So I'm going to head up there Sunday. I'm probably going to stay on the west side of the lake. I found a good group of fish. Now this front's going to change things. I got my ear to the pavement. I've got guys up there that are fishing this week. One of them fished today. He did all right. Got some decent fish. Didn't catch any giants, but West Texas Cat Addict. Glad it helps, man. Anytime you got any questions or need some help, just holler at me. I'll see if I can't answer it, I'll get one of my buddies that can. So, and Jeff, I don't know whether you're talking north up to on our lake or north up to Texoma, but I'm pretty much fishing Sundays for the next 4 weeks. My son has football. He's got 2 more regular season games, and then we're in the playoffs, and he's on a really good team. So we'll go deep into the playoffs. We'll probably make the championship game. So it's going to be at least 2 or 3 games on the playoffs. I think we play 1 game a weekend for that. Texoma, I'll be up there Sunday. If you want to drag your boat up there, I don't know who I'm fishing with. I know there's several guys that want to fish. I want my son to catch all the fish. So whoever comes is going to have to sign a waiver. No fish catching clause. Action Jackson clause. No, as long as he gets the first couple of good ones, and they can catch whatever after that. All right, Jeff, you're taking your boat. Come Sunday, and we'll fish next to each other. Don't expect it to be great, but I've got my ear to the pavement. I'll have an idea where they've been, and then we can go try to hound dog them from there. If it was like last weekend, it was pretty rough, man. I'll see you up there. Holler at me before you go, and yes, I'm bringing bait. I should be able to get bait for you, so. I'll know. I'll start finding out when I can get bait Friday. Might be my guy buddy fishes Friday. If he's fishing Saturday, I'll get Saturday bait. If he's not, I'll get Friday bait. I'll get you some bait. Just holler at me. Mike McClung, what's up, bro? Mike, King of Lake Worth. If you go Saturday, let me know and I'll try to point you in the right direction. I'm not saying the fish will be there, but just holler at me. Guys, tight lines. God bless. Azul out.
See you guys.